stupid powers are on the triggers and it's none of it's working properly, and each trigger has a flipping weapon wheel getting close. That doesn't count. This is my challenge now. This is going to be the first non-explicit episode of the HGO podcast, and it's about how much I hate Forspoken. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the HGO podcast. I'm one of your hosts today, Ethan, and joining me, as always, are my good friends, Hunter and Kyle. Hey, guys. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing just swell.
Hello, hello.
You know, it's sad times, indeed. You know, I am not allowed to swear anymore. It's just, that's it. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah.
It's over. I made a
It
joke about demonetization, and
dead.
it killed the episode dead in its tracks. I could not do anything to save it. So I am now becoming a PG-friendly content creator, except it's not suitable for kids because I want the better advertising. So what do? I feel like it's... I feel like YouTube is just such a weird game where it's just... You can't make stuff for kids, but also you can't swear, or else you'll annoy Coca-Cola. I'm trying so hard not to swear right now. And it's like, you just can't win. You just can't win. But hey,
I'm sure you can annoy Coca-Cola.
it was either that or people really
too.
didn't like Fire Emblem. And here's the thing: I've seen Twitter, people were talking, so I just feel like
people are
Susie's
talking
got something
about
out for us.
Fire Emblem,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Who
Big
knows?
YouTube trying to keep us down.
Yeah, and hey, if you didn't listen to last week's episode, the podcast numbers were fine. So audio, if the video users haven't got me, I know our podcast listeners have us. Thank you guys, you showed up. But if you are on YouTube and you didn't get it for some reason last week, hey, it's over there on youtube.com/gamers-only. You can go check that out. But this week, man, we've got a bit of a packed show in a way, because not only is Dead Space out, not only are we not reviewing the game we said we would also review this week, but we're reviewing a game we didn't know existed as well. So it's like we've got a three-peat. And Hunter got a really expensive Christmas gift that he can also review. Wow. Woo!
It's true.
Yeah. It's a shame we don't make money from this, Hunter, or else your brother could have also written it off as a tax write-off. So, you know, that would have been like the pinnacle, the icing on the cake, but alas. No.
Could he write it off as a tax write-off if I'm the one that would have gotten the...
I believe we could. I feel like we could trick it. You could just say you got your brother to buy it for you, and then you paid him, and then yeah.
Can you write it off as a donation?
Exactly. Oh yeah, true. Who knows? Anyway,
I don't know. I don't know how taxes work.
I've never had enough money to have to worry about tax write-offs, so I don't know how that works.
And the thing is, in the UK, right, we have this crazy thing called, if we're employed by somebody else, the taxes they sort the taxes out, and we just get the tax deduced income. We just get that. We don't have to even think about that. It's crazy times we live in over here.
Well, yeah, that happens here too. But...
Yes, I know some people though in America that don't get them right, and they still have to do it themselves. Yeah.
Oh.
Don't you love America, dude? Don't you love everywhere, to be honest? Anyway, I'm rambling off. Maybe this is also threatening the IRS also causes demonetization. I guess we'll find out, because I've been a very good boy. I haven't sworn it at all yet. But anyway, HGO podcast every Monday. We're here talk about everything we love about learning games. We got Dead Space coming up. We got Hi-Fi Rush coming up. Never gonna remember that name. We've got Dualsense Edge impressions coming up, and we'll also talk a little bit why none of us have picked up Forspoken. So we got a jam-packed episode this week. Timestamps are, as always, below. And yeah, I thought it would be interesting to start with Hi-Fi. And the reason I want to start with Hi-Fi is because I feel like, don't get me wrong, people are very much excited for Dead Space, but this game just came out of nowhere. And it's the opposite of Dead Space in many a way, made by a horror dev, and it's just kind of taken the world by storm. So I say we just talk about it. Why not?
Yeah.
So on was it Wednesday? I believe it was Wednesday, correct?
I think so.
Yeah, it was Wednesday.
Xbox had their little developer direct. They actually used the word direct. I was trying to, in my head, I was like, what word did they use to not claim direct? But they just went for it. They were like, we've run out of words to possibly describe this. It is a developer direct. and they showed off a couple of games. They showed off Forza, they showed off Minecraft, whatever it's called, Legends, I think. They showed off Redfall, they showed off Elder Scrolls, whatever it is, latest expansion. My favorite part was when they splashed up a screen that was like, for a limited time, you can try all of the expansions, and there was like 60 million of them, and I was like, ah yes, for a limited time, you too can have an anxiety attack thinking about how you cover all this content. But there's plenty of stuff.
The MMO experience, Ethan.
Yeah, that's why never happen. I'll never get into MMOs. But I think the star of the show and what everybody immediately gravitated towards was Tango Gameworks' latest game, a little guy called Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah.
So I don't know about you guys. When I saw the trailer, I was like, when I saw the developer thing was going on, I wasn't watching it, but I saw this game and I was like, that looks sick. It looks really cool. I'm like, that's instantly going on my watch out for it radar. I'm like, I'm gonna be watching out for that later in the year. And they were like, nope, it's available now. Download it.
Exact thought process. I was like, oh, this looks sweet. This looks sweet. And then it's like, it's out now. I'm like, oh man. Like, time to figure out how to get my computer to give me Game Pass again.
Hey, there you go. I didn't have to worry because I've for some reason got Game Pass until mid-2025. So I was like, finally, a reason to use Game Pass. I was like, hallelujah. So here it is, Hi-Fi Rush. And I don't know, Hunter, how would you've played a little bit of it. I've played roughly like 2/3 of it, I think. How would you describe Hi-Fi?
Oh, okay. So it's like one of those crazy action games like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta meets a rhythm game, and it is super stylized and a bunch of high energy, all kinds of great things coming from this game. It's got loads of personality too. What a difference a year makes. Tango Gameworks put out a game last year that was just the most it sure does exist game ever, and now we have this, which I will be shocked if I'm not thinking about this at the end of the year still.
I feel like the greatest compliment I can give it is, to me, it feels like Jet Set Radio had a baby with Devil May Cry is the best way that I could probably describe it in terms of gameplay and visual appearance. This game screams GameCube and Dreamcast to me. It screams that era of video games where everything, Wind Waker and Jet Set, where everything's vibrant and kind of cell-shaded.
Colorful and cell-shaded and wacky.
Yeah, and fun. Those were the days.
Fun.
But it does. It feels so unique, and I think the greatest compliment I can give it is I'm not a fan of hack and slashes, and I absolutely adore this game. And I feel like that is because a lot of people always say, "Oh, you should like hack and slashes. The combat it's almost like a rhythm game in of itself because you're making combos, you're doing certain button presses." I'm like, get that out of here. This is not terrible for me because I'm like, no, because I have to memorize it. Because like Bayonetta will be like, yes, if you do 5 X's a Y and then 2 X's after that, you'll get this move. And I'll be like, no, I'm mashing the buttons and magic happens and I don't know what I'm doing. Whereas this game was just like, hey, listen to the beat in the background. That's when you press the buttons. I was like, it all makes sense now. That's it. Now that I have this backing thing that's giving me the rhythm to go to, I'm like, I've got it.
Yeah.
This is how you play these video games. I'll probably still hate the others because it's not to the beat, but I just absolutely, I absolutely adore it.
Hard mode challenge. Play the rest of them to the beat of whatever their backtrack is too.
Hell yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh, could you imagine if I need someone to go and mod this kind of functionality into DMC5 for Devil Trigger now.
That would be incredible.
But I feel like what I love about it especially is it's not just, it's a hack and slash what you play to the rhythm. It's literally the entire world, the entire game is on point. It's on the rhythm.
Yeah,
and
it's on the beat. I
absolutely adore it. Every single cutscene, every single transition, every single movement of an object in the game world is all on beat. And I'm like, it's some wizard stuff where there's a particular scene in chapter 2 which I absolutely love, where you're on a grind rail you go through a poof of smoke. It changes to a 2D animated, like anime style cinematic that is also in the beat. That carries on in the beat, and then it breaks back into the main game again, all seamless and still in beat. And I'm like, how did they not even drop anything on here? I don't know how they did it. I'm like,
that part was so cool. It's like I've only played up through the second chapter, but there are so many times that I was playing this game and like, oh man, this game rules. I like it a lot.
oh, there's so many sections, and it just like it plays on its cliches. It has those cliche kind of hack and slash moments. You know, it has that mission where you're on a train basically, and you're just stuck in the same place, and you're having enemies come to you. Basically, every like kind of action game has this kind of mission where you're in a certain area, and everybody
And
just
most
powers
games
onto
with combat in general will give you
Yeah.
one of
Yeah.
these.
yeah, and everyone's on you. But the way they do it in this game, where it's like everything's to the beat, and it's like, oh, you need to ram, like the brakes will auto engage, and you need to destroy the brakes, and you have to work out while you're on the beat. You've got enemies all around you. You need to do abilities to get the brakes to stop working, and everything's on the beat. It's just like stuff like that. It's just really magic when you're playing this game. It's like I've been having an absolute blast from like from the beginning, and it's just like, man, I wish that I wish there were more games like this, period, let alone I'm shocked that this is coming out of Bethesda and Xbox. Like, to me, Bethesda and Xbox do not scream this at all
Not
prior
at
to
all.
acquisition. And so to have a game like this, I'm like, man, what a get for Xbox. This might be their Game of the Year contender right here.
It sure will be. Whether Starfield comes out or not.
It's a great way to start the year, to be honest. It's like, it's great. I just, this so far, the only little gripe I have with this video game is the platforming. There's some platforming sections, and they do feel a tad clunky at times.
Yeah.
Mainly
just a
because the
hair.
dodge and the jumps are very much made.
They don't mesh
for-
very well.
No, because they're made for the combat, and it's like one of
yeah.
those things where you're using a Devil May Cry Bayonetta kind of dodge mechanic to move in the air to get across platforms, and it's just not working incredibly well. It does the job, but sometimes you'll be like, I clearly made that jump, or why
Like,
is this
yeah,
a
there
bit
was
more fiddly than it needs to be?
one part the other day when I was playing where I like dashed off of a thing and tried to jump because it just kind of ate the jump because he was stuck in the air and then fell.
It is a bit wacky. With
I
stuff
was like,
that.
oh well.
It's also, like I say, there's just like little nitpicks as well. Like the walk speed is a bit too slow for my liking, to the point where I'm dodging everywhere, and I'm doing it in the beat, which is always fun. So it makes me
It lets
feel
you,
like
it makes you do extra dashes when you do it on beat too.
yeah,
It's
you get
nice.
3 dashes in a row. And I'm like, this is fun, but also I would really appreciate a run button, because it's fun for the first couple of levels to be, you know, dodge, 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 dodge as you're moving through the world. But then when you're on level 8 and you're still dodging through the world, I'm like, can we get like a movement ability that makes us a bit quicker, please? Because it's a bit slow. But it's mainly just nitpicks like that, because like everything.
Come on, Chai, start walking in 16th notes.
Yeah, basically. I'm just like, can we pick up a sprint? Can you do half beats on the sprint, please? Thank you. Like, come on. Because everything else is just like, I feel like they nail it. Art design and gameplay are super solid and mesh super well. I love the voice acting in this game. It's particularly
so good.
excellent.
The two leads are Erica Lindbeck and Robbie Damon. So,
Which I
it's
said
like,
to you yesterday, and I feel like this is a very apt statement, is Robbie Damon and Erica Lindbeck are this generation's Laura Bailey and Troy Baker, where they will be in everything that you ever play for the next 10 years, and you'll like it, but you'll also be like, oh, we're doing this again. They're almost a tag team at this point. But that's brilliant. Roger Craig Smith as the main villain is also very good. I like him quite a bit. Just all of the characters, to be honest, are filled with personality.
oh yeah.
And there's just so many cool moments, like, and just so many stupid moments. You haven't got to them yet, but one of the guys is basically a JoJo villain, and he has all of the JoJo like animations and stuff like that. And apparently, I learned he's voiced by someone who's played a character in JoJo as well. So it's like they went full in on that.
Nice.
The like evil scientist kind of motif, and it's just like everything about it is it's extremely anime and it's extremely Japan, but in a very I don't know how to really describe it.
It does it with so much gusto that it's like hard not to like it.
It does
Like,
it with gusto,
it's
and it also does it in a very Western way. If it kind of it's like it's not. There are anime tropes, and it's very like heavily Japanese anime inspired and stuff like that. But it has like with the hi-fi, with the quote unquote hi-fi music, with the like it has an extremely Westernized kind of soundtrack to it. So it's very it's like a meshing of the two worlds, but they both very much like mesh extremely well. They synergize with each other, even though they technically, you wouldn't necessarily be like, oh, you know what? Rock music and anime sometimes are like, yeah, this couldn't maybe not work as well, but it does. It works excellently, and I love it. It's great. It's very good. I don't know what else to say really. It's just a very good game. You should play it. It's genuinely. January's
if you have an
peaking
Xbox,
early.
there's like no reason not to.
Or if you have a PC that can run it and you want just give Xbox $1 for Game Pass for free trial and then just crank this one out in a couple of hours. I think it's probably about 10 hours long would be my guess. I've put about 6 or 7 into it so far. It's very good. I'd highly recommend it. I just, like I say, I'm very excited to be honest. I hope that more studios, from Bethesda especially, get to kind of go outside of their wheelhouse a little bit, because I feel like this is a really good experiment really. I'm like, oh damn, this works really well, and I'm like, okay, the horror studio has done something weird and wacky and it's worked wonderfully. I'm like, oh, I really hope other studios yeah, I'm hoping other studios can do something, because it's like I look at other studios like I look at what are they called, we were just talking about them, who's making Redfall. Is it Arcane?
Arcane.
Yeah,
Arcane.
I look at Arcane and I'm like, man, Arcane, you make some great games, you make some great worlds, but the gameplay is the exact same in all these video games. They're all the exact same gameplay wise, where it's just like shooty, dodge, stealth. I'm like, can we like let them do something else? Let them do something else. It'd be great, because they have the character designers and all that to do it. I'd love to see it, and I'd also love Xbox to just make any game that isn't Minecraft, Forza, or Halo. That would also be a grand time. Take this as a lesson for their main studios. Like, imagine if they just like dropped a banjo one day in this exact same way, where they were just like, oh, well, we had someone making a banjo this whole time, and now it's available on Game Pass. Have fun, kids. Be like,
that would own the internet for like a week and a half at least.
Exactly, and I feel like it's a great way to do this, because it's like if we did have the usual press cycle of Hi-Fi's announced in January, we see a bit about it, it comes out in June, it would do well, but I don't think it would have exploded in the way that it's kind of exploded this week, where it was just like
probably
really polished games available right now.
Like regardless of whether it was out or not, I would have been interested. You know, I would have been like, oh shoot, Xbox finally showing another game that I'm like, oh, wish I had one. First time in a while for that. But a lot of people, I'm sure, would have been like, well, maybe, but wait till we see more, and then it would have like dissipated.
Mm-hmm. And the only thing that makes me sad that it's an Xbox, because this was started development in 2017. The only thing that kind of makes me sad that this is an Xbox exclusive is this would have been the game of like the year for the haptic feedback. And I was like, I just felt it. I was like,
oh my god!
Like, you know how we had Astro's Playroom, we had Returnal. I'm like, if there was going to be a game of this year that did the haptic feedback, it would have been this one, and it would have been amazing,
dude, that would have been so good.
Because I'm playing it on Xbox, and obviously they have like the rumble and the triggers and stuff like that, and they're doing stuff like that. But I'm like, oh, imagine if the beat was pulsing through the controller, or it was like stuff like that. I'm like, oh, they could have done something amazing with that. But oh well. It's fine. I have an Xbox. It's a good reason to use it, I guess. It's all good.
Yeah.
But no, it's an excellent game that you should definitely pick up. Next up on the list is another little game. This one, more anticipated. I feel like we've known about this for too long, because I feel like the day they started development, EA was like, hey, look, here's a guy doing some code. Like they did that thing with this game where they announced it the moment they started it. But it's here. Dead Space Remake is finally here.
Oh, it sure is.
And it seems like we already know who won the war between Callisto and Dead Space. if you would have asked me a year ago who would win the war between Callisto and Dead Space, I would have been wrong. It was like
Oh, you thought Callisto was gonna be the one?
I thought that Dead Space was just going to be a cash grab, kind of. It does the job, like it's
Oh,
fine. It's fine, especially because the way they were showing it. Like I said, you just kept seeing screenshots of it being in really early dev, and I was like, this game's coming along really quickly. So I was like, it's probably just going to be fine, but it's here, and the Open Critic says otherwise. How
Yeah, it
Kyle,
does.
you've also been playing this.
Congratulations, Kyle.
Yeah,
This is Kyle's year, baby. Let's go.
let's set a baseline. How much have you guys played at this game so far?
I've played about 3 hours. I think I'm at the start of the 4th chapter.
I've played about 4.5 to 5-ish, and I'm in the middle of chapter 5.
Cool.
Okay. And for anyone that doesn't know what Dead Space is, Hunter, what is Dead Space?
Dead Space is a sci-fi horror game where you go into this destroyed ship called the Ishimura. Isaac Clarke and a band of other people coming in to do a repair job, and suddenly everyone's dying, dead, and there are monsters that have spikes for arms harassing you the whole time. Sound about accurate, Kyle?
Yeah, that's everything I've experienced so far.
And somebody's sus, and you've got to suss them out, guys. This is what it is. No, so it's like it's one of kind of the generational horror games from when it was released back in, was it 2008,
2007, I want to say. Yeah.
So yeah, whenever it was released, it's kind of it's up there, right? It's one of those kind of genre defining games.
It was like the last big AAA survival horror game to come out before Amnesia came out, and horror games became hide and seek games.
October 2008.
Oh, get wrecked, Hunter. I was right. Hooray, I'm the horror fan, not you. I'm great.
Oh, yeah.
I love horror.
Missed opportunity, though. They released it in the middle of October instead of Halloween. So.
Oh,
well, no, I think that's great. I've said this
before.
before. Luigi's Mansion 3 did me a great opportunity of being able to play that game for roughly about 6 hours before it was past Halloween and I could no longer play that video game. It was a tragedy. And I still have not finished Luigi's Mansion 3 because every time I go to it, I'm like, no, it has to be October. And then I always forget. And then it's like, oh, never going back to it. Screw you, Luigi. Anyway, Dead Space. How are you finding it, Hunter? As a veteran of horror games, and have you played the original Dead Space? I assume you've played the original Dead Space like 4 times or something, knowing you.
I've played it like 3 times. I played it a couple of times when it first came out, and then I played it again like 2 years ago by now, or like a year from October or September last year. And yeah, it's been super cool so far. Everything looks like how I thought I remembered it before that.
That was the classic, boys. I hope you got your bingo cards out. I hope you got your remake bingo cards out. It looks the way I thought it was as a child.
Yeah,
there we go. Tick. No, I just love that because it's like that's the greatest. That's the biggest compliment that you can always give one of these remakes is it looks the way I imagined it, but it's also like. It's almost like I feel like it's like this is the Dark Souls of video games kind of statement, but for remakes.
I mean, I feel like a compliment of that caliber is more suited to something like the Final Fantasy VII remake, where it would have gotten like a bigger glow
Right, no,
up.
I'm sorry. If someone says that this is the way I imagined that this game looked, and they're talking about Final Fantasy VII, I'm like, you're tripping. No one in their life pictured that. If you saw Link with his Link, bloody hell, cry. If you saw Cloud, I know my anime characters, guys. If you saw Cloud with his Minecraft hands, and were like, yes, just the way I pictured it. You're a liar, sir. You're a liar.
But like legit, before I played the original game again a couple years ago, I did remember a lot of the lighting being darker, and where it was just barely seeing like the ambient light in the distance, whereas the original version of the game is a bit better lit than I imagined it was. Not quite as generous with the lights this time around. Still enough to see where you're going and all that, but definitely way more mood inducing with the tension and all of that. A few other things I've noticed. It seems like his stomp and punch are a little quicker than they used to be. Like I killed one of the necromorphs from a standing position. Like it was still standing up. I didn't even kneecap it or anything yet by just stomping on it one time. And I took maybe one hit. I'm like, huh, all right. Not necessarily a good or bad thing. Like if it really mattered, because I've been having an easier time with it than I did, but I played 2 a few months ago. I played a couple of other horror games between now and then too, so I might just still be tuned into that kind of thing, and if it really bothers me, I'm pretty sure I can just switch the difficulty from the menu. But you know, so that's what I've got so far. They've made some other tunings to the gameplay as far as the weapon upgrades this time around. Instead of when you would get them before, just the full little upgrade tree was available to you. Now you have to go and find the upgrades will either be in the world or you can purchase them from the store. But I think there's more like upgradable nodes as the trade-off here. Like I feel like I've already dumped in all of the power nodes that I would have to the plasma cutter for the whole game in just these first couple of chapters already.
Mm.
You don't have to buy the weapons so far anymore either. You just find them and you get them. No schematic purchases necessary.
Now you just need room in your inventory.
Yeah.
That's nice. Kyle.
Well,
Obviously-
to start off, to even play the video game, I needed to make an account with EA. So that was fun.
Yeah, don't you love that? I love when they do
dude.
that. That's my favorite.
Yeah, dude, that's swell. But once I got that rigmarole sorted out, game's pretty fun, not gonna lie. I did not play the original Dead Space. I didn't pay attention to the original Dead Space. I knew nothing about Dead Space when I went into this.
You literally weren't really a fan of horror games up until
Last year.
Last year until playing the
And
Resident
even then,
Evil
I'd
2
probably
and 3
only
remake.
call myself a Resident Evil fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Because I haven't really branched out outside of Resident Evil for the horror genre.
and
But-
the one thing you said to me was check there's aim assist before you bought it, and I was like,
Yeah.
there's aim assist, and you're like, okay, cool, I downloaded it. So that's the kind like,
That's just because I'm bad at shooters.
no, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
They actually have a
I'll
bunch of
take whatever
fun little-
handicaps the game can give me.
They have a bunch of options in the
Mm.
accessibility setting now. Like my favorite modern option for this kind of thing is push the QuickTime event once and be
Yep.
done. It's my favorite thing, and I hope every game from now until the end of time starts doing that.
That is nice.
Is it weird
One-
that I
one
still
thing
keep
that-
the QuickTime event on? I feel like I'm like somebody that's like, I feel like I'm in like an abusive relationship with QuickTime events where it's like I have the option to leave, but I'm like, no, I really love mashing the square button and breaking my controllers about 6 times quicker than everybody else. I don't know why. I'm just like, it's like in Hi-Fi, there's those chests where you have to mash the button, and I could go in the accessibility options and turn on hold. I don't. I'm literally like, yeah. I don't know why. I don't know why. Someone save me, please.
It was funny because another option that just got a chuckle out of me was that there's like a content warning and disturbing scenes check, and I'm like, okay, fair enough if you want to make this as playable as possible for as many people as possible, but also this is kind of the ticket you buy when you purchase the game.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use that
legit.
filter if I ever play it. It'd be like, yeah.
Oh,
What's they
Yeah.
do? Replace it with
Hunter.
rainbows and unicorns? Like, I don't like.
I
What
don't
do you
know,
do?
it's-
What do you do to Dead Space to fix
I-
that? I have no clue. Like,
Yeah, I don't know what you would do. I'm not sure. I didn't turn it on because
I didn't either, because I'm not a baby.
yeah,
I see how it
look at
is.
you
I see
go.
how it is.
But dude, Hunter, did
What's
it
up?
bother you in the options that you can only invert the y-axis of the camera?
I didn't pay attention to it because I don't invert axes.
Well, it bothers me.
Okay.
Wait, you invert
It's-
both?
I invert one of them, but I don't remember which one I invert. And the only option is invert the y-axis.
And when you did that, were you like, "This is
I
the
don't
one"?
know. Nothing felt right, truthfully. So
Right, here's the
I
thing.
don't know what
I
the
always,
answer
I'll always,
is.
I'll always accept people who invert the y-axis because those people have it like they make an excuse. They're like something like if you tilt your head down, you're pushing the stick forward. It's as if your neck, you're using your neck. I'm like, you know what? I'll accept that. You weirdos that use the invert on the x-axis. I'm like, what's that? What is that? I don't get that at all.
Like, yeah, I don't
So
understand
to
people
look
who are
to the
like that
left, we
too.
tilt our head right, guys.
If
That's
I
how
got
that
the keys
works.
to the
No.
universe and changed it to where everyone woke up tomorrow and their controls were inverted, you would not be thinking it was natural to try and look left and look right. That's just not how you would work.
You guys are tripping. You're fakes. You're frauds. I don't believe you. It's like I was playing Sly earlier, like this month, and it was like I loaded the game up, and inverted was called normal, and I'm like, the dark ages of video games where people hadn't made their minds up yet on what's the right way of doing things, and I'm like, fair enough, having normal be the inverted way of up and down on the y-axis, that's fine. That game had normal be that as well, the inverted on the x. I'm like, you monsters, you absolute monster sucker punch. This is why I don't like Ghost of Tsushima. Absolutely horrendous. Anyway, how scary is it, Kyle? How are you feeling?
Yeah, honestly, it's not really that scary.
Maybe?
Yet at chapter 4.
Does it get scarier,
No.
Hunter? Not with no spoilers. Does it get scarier?
No,
from the original?
Hunter's not a good character study for what scary is.
Yeah, if I said, well, if I told you yes, like before if I had just answered yes before there was any input from you, you would be terrified. But no, it's like it's tense and whatnot, but like I have been super relaxed while I've played this game.
Of course you have.
No,
Like,
I get
like,
that.
like, dude, Necromorph came up, like, just peeked right out from where the camera was looking behind Isaac, and I'm like, oh, there's a guy behind me. just swiveled around. I'm like, time to shoot you. I remember distinctly the last time I played the original version, a dude, like, fell from the ceiling when I was in a workbench or something. I'm like, oh, hey, time to die.
Dude, there was one part where I think it was the part where you're moving the train cars, and I was just standing there watching it happen. And from behind me, I saw the little monster with its little like sharp claws coming up, just like walking up behind me. The claws went around Isaac's head, and I just chuckled. It just amused me. He just strolled up. And
Yeah,
I'm like, oh hey buddy, what's up?
die.
Like it's not scary. Like,
Maybe
but
you just
no,
have
like you
nerves
said,
of steel, Cal. Maybe you just
it
have
is
nerves of steel.
tense because like there was one part where one puzzle has you turning off, like it forces you to turn the lights off in an area.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, this is gonna be fun. Good thing if I click the right stick, it tells me where to go.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I might feel something.
You see, those are the sections I hate in games. It's like, I don't think The Last of Us is scary. The one part of that game that creeped me out a bit too much is the hotel scene where you're in a basement and basically it's pitch black and you can hear the clickers and the stuff around you, but they're non-existent until you interact with something or turn the generator on. Then they all wake up and chase you, and it was the scariest thing. Like I was like, oh god. It's terrifying. Now, if you know how that game, like that's the thing about horror is if you know how something works, it's not scary, right? It's like if you know how the pie's made, it's not as terrifying. So if you know that
like
there are no
anytime
zombies that spawn in that basement until you interact with something, then it's not scary in the slightest. But in that situation when you're like, I don't know what's happening, I was like, please get me out of here. I don't want to be here.
Or like anytime you die and then you know when or what the threshold
thing's coming at you,
that you
yeah.
walk over, it's real easy to. I didn't even, I didn't even die until like 2.5 hours of playing the game. I was like, oh man, yeah. And then I died like 4 times in a row on the next room. I'm like, oh man, all right, it hurt me talking smack. Good for you. But
So
I've been taking it at a leisurely pace, enjoying the details because the Ishimura is a really well constructed environment. Like they have a little line that leads you where you need to go, but there is so much like diegetic signposting around the thing that if they didn't have that, a reasonable person would be able to navigate like pretty easily.
I guess that's my biggest question really is, obviously, it looks how you thought it was, blah 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 blah, all the classic remake things that we always say. What's the quality of this? How high do you think the bar is here? Because people have been saying that, from what I've been reading, the quality in terms of the remake, in terms of the work and the level design and the art design that's been done on this, is really commendable. It's like people are saying that it is really one of the better examples of a remake done right.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I said, all the environment stuff, the character faces look like Nicole, Isaac's girlfriend, in the original version looked rather young, like not like, like a young woman rather than like she looks middle-aged in the new version here.
They've done the whole test thing. Has there been a debate
Yeah,
about this?
exactly.
Because you know what Last of Us fans are like. I'm like, is
Yeah,
this just
exactly.
a
I
Last of
was
Us
like,
issue?
I was like, I wonder if that's. I imagine that's how she was probably supposed to look then. And like
That's
the
what I'm
PS3,
assuming when they
the
like, 'cause this
PS3,
is
it wasn't capable. It had two settings. It had young lady and old woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no middle ground there. That's why Tess looked younger in The Last of Us.
I feel like this is what you see now, right? Because like with The Last of Us and like with Tess, it was always like Tess always looked like when I played the remastered version, I was like Tess always looked way younger than I think she is. Like in my head, I'm like Tess is probably maybe slightly younger than Joel, but still like probably in her 40s, and she looks like she's in her late 20s, early 30s in The Last of Us.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when you get to part 1 now, she does look more like age appropriate for where I think her character was. So I'm sure it's
to give like an inverted example. If Returnal came out on the PS3, Celine probably would look like she was in her early 20s instead of like the mid 40s or wherever Celine is supposed to be age wise.
It's just that blasted cell processor can't be trusted. Can't be trusted.
But yeah, so yeah, the character's got a nice little, visual upgrade as well. Lore wise, like with the story, they've placed things in a manner that it's easier to see where some of the important stuff in the backstory, like they present it to you in a way that you don't have to go looking for quite as much. Because they started talking about some things like in like chapter 2, and I'm like, I didn't think they mentioned that until later. And maybe I'm just misremembering too, but I'm pretty sure they've just presented certain things in the backstory to be present throughout rather than stuff that you'd have to go hunting down and, listen to the Dark Souls lore recaps for.
No, fair enough.
Yeah, no, for me, coming off of a place of not really having a reference to what this game used to be like, it's a nifty little place that you're exploring. I like that the ship, the Ishimura, is that what it's called?
Ishimura, yeah.
Ishimura does a really nice job of just like making everything feel claustrophobic and tight, and that really helps fit the vibes that they're going for.
Oh yeah, just walking through one of the tight hallways and you can just hear the things creeping around in the vents wherever they are. It's lovely. Oh.
So, I don't know. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to Dead Space?
Isaac didn't have a voice in the original version, and he does in this one. And it feels pretty natural. Like, I don't know if people might have been like skeptical about that for whatever reason, because he started talking in 2 and it felt fine there. So like, I don't know why you would be I don't know why anyone would be trepidatious about this. The same guy is doing it this time too. So that's nice.
I guess the final question is there any major changes, real things? Because I've heard there's bits and pieces. There might be a couple of things in level design that has been changed from the course of it. I've heard it's later in the game, so you guys might have not got to that point yet.
If it has been, it's been not
Cal
there
wouldn't
yet.
know.
But as far as so far, the chapter thing is a little more seamless, like just the progression of the game, because in the original version, it was, centered around tram drops you off here, you got to go fix a thing, do some stuff, and then you take the tram to the next place that you're doing stuff at. In this one, you still use the tram to move around, but it's a little more like that was the begin and end of every chapter, whereas this one, they kind of, as the new conflict crops up, that's when the chapter kind of transitions.
No, fair enough. I guess final thing to add is what the final recommendation. Do you think it's worth a purchase?
Yeah, it's probably the best way to play Dead Space, and also the other version of the game is on the PS3 and or 360. So it's a very faithful remake, and Dead Space is one of the best games, the horror games ever made. So yeah, it's worth your time if you like horror games.
Yeah, this game's a lot of fun. A lot of neat little weapons. The haptic voodoo that the PlayStation 5 controller has is really neat. This is my first time actually experiencing it. I'm a big fan of the buzzsaw gun that you get.
Oh, the Ripper, that one's fun.
Dude,
Like
that thing's so sick.
I'm typically I play most of the game with the plasma cutter because it's just the best weapon. But the Ripper is fun because buzzsaws that you just shoot the saw and hold it at them.
Yeah.
Just shoot it right at their legs and cut them off both at the same time. It's great.
Now, I'm just having a look here because it's a $70 game, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just looking. If you're in the UK, for some reason on Amazon, it's the $70 price, £70 price, £65 or whatever for PlayStation. But for some reason on Xbox Series X and S, it's $55. So if you're in the UK and you have both, go play it on Xbox because it's apparently technically cheaper. I don't know why. I was just like, why is that? Anyway, but I was just checking because I don't know, with remakes and stuff like that, you never know if where they're falling. And so this is on the Demon Soul side of pricing. But hey.
Yeah. It's on the Demon Soul side of production too, to be fair.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And I really do kind of like this EA resurgence of single player. I do kind of like that they failed so hard at these multiplayer projects that they are now going back and doing like your Star Wars Jedis, your Dead Space remakes. They're like, there's an actual place for them now. You know, Motive, now that they finished Dead Space, they're working on an Iron Man project, which is kind of cool.
Oh, yeah.
So, there's a lot of cool stuff coming out of EA, which is, with their indie program, you've got, obviously, good old Joseph Fares with all of his stuff like It Takes Two and A Way Out and all of those. So it's like, there's some good stuff coming out of EA.
I wonder what the Yarny team is up to. I'd like to see them make another game.
Who knows? Maybe we'll find out.
Unravel was fun. I'd be down for another one or whatever they want to do. But yeah, it's nice to see that EA is sucking less than they had been consistently for the past several years.
They definitely are, and also I feel like everybody else is sucking more.
Yeah, it's
so it helps true. That even though they've only slightly lowered who they are, it's like, hey,
they shaved off some of their bad juju right onto Ubisoft, waiting below them.
Yeah, they've not announced a game, and they don't, so they're probably working on something. But yeah, good stuff. It's really funny that it's like we've had one of those two really great games in a week. And then this other game just kind of crawled out of its like well, and everyone's already forgotten about it. It's kind of funny.
Oh yeah, it is rather
Do you
funny. What game was that?
Let's talk about. Sure, I was gonna save it to after the DualSense Edge impressions, but we'll bring it forward because it makes more sense, doesn't it? It makes more sense. Forspoken came out this week, and everybody nodded with, yeah, that exists, and then moved on with their life. That was the reaction.
Meanwhile, Square Enix is really trying to push this game. Like, desperately.
Yeah, because they probably put way too much money into this game. It's really interesting because, we said we'd cover it. I said that I would be buying it. Kyle said he might also jump on the bandwagon. He didn't. He bought Dead Space instead. Good choice.
Better choice.
For the first time in podcast history, I feel like I more than everybody else have picked up terrible games and been like, yeah, they're bad. Nintendo Switch Sports is the big one that I always go back to. Why did I do that? But I always pick up these mediocre games and go, you know what?
Told you to.
It was pretty mid. Sam's just a bully. Sam bullied me into Nintendo Switch Sports, guys. It wasn't me, it was Sam, I swear.
Didn't even have golf.
And then when they did get golf, I didn't go and play it. It's like Fire Emblem. I don't really like Fire Emblem that much, but I bought it anyway for the podcast. Way. But you know, it's just one of those things, right? So my copy of Forspoken arrived a day late, and I was just like, I put it to Twitter. I was like, I really do not feel like playing this. Are you going to force me to play it? Luckily, you guys on Twitter, thank you, for once in your life agreed with me, said no. I opened the package, put the return notice in, closed the package back up, and sent it straight back out. So we're not even going to think about Forspoken. And I feel like it's for the best, because it got like a 67, a 68 on OpenCritic, I believe.
It's up to 69 right now.
Nice. That's the closest you get into a swear from me this week, guys. Anyway, it's just a nice 69 reference. That's it. That's as close as we can go, Carl. That's as close as we can go. Anyway, are you guys shocked at all? I'm not. I played the demo, so I'm not too shocked. The thing that gets me the most is everybody's going, haha, look at this cringy dialogue. Very cringe, am I right, guys? And I'm like, this is Rick and Morty dialogue. If He Who Shall Not Be Named wrote this, you would be like, what an ingenious story. I am so gripped by these characters. Ha ha hee ha.
Yeah, like, this is the funny thing about the dialogue is that for everything I've observed, it, like, doesn't seem much more heinous than the typical not funny kind of jokey Marvel stuff.
I played a game with equally as bad writing, literally just a month ago, and it was called High on Life, and that game definitely has the same terrible writing style. It's like, I just don't get why people... It's like, I look at these kinds of games, and I feel like it's a bunch of people who are like, what do the kids like? And then someone else is like, the kids like those ironic jokes and those meta jokes where we say things that are funny.
Disrespecting authority.
And we disrespect authority. And we act like, whoa, that's so cool. Did that just happen? No way. Like, it just...
And then repeat it 7 times.
Yeah, I do that now.
It's just like... It's just like... It is genuinely...
My favorite thing about... Because, you know, there was the one trailer or whatever where she's like summarizing her situation. Like, I'm in this other land and I'm fighting dragons and casting magic
trailer.
And I'm talking to a magical bracelet or whatever. And even then, my little sarcastic recap here sounds better than it did in the trailer. My favorite part is that when I was playing Hi-Fi Rush the other day, he did the whole kind of like stunned summary of his situation, and it didn't suck.
You just reminded me. They also have very funny. They do have very funny kind of meta humor in that. But that one is like, I can tell was actually written by a good writer. Like there's a moment where one of the villains is like, you can't. He says something. This is not what he says, but he's like, you can't escape me, Mr. Chai. And then Chai's like, that's Mr. Chai to you. And he's like, I just called you that. And he was like, okay. It was just really funny. It was just really funny where I was like, that's the kind of writing that these games like Forspoken and Higher Life are trying to get, but they just don't.
Yeah, the way they contextualized the tutorial in that game was funny too, because it was like he imagined being on a stage at a concert, and then when it got back to the robots just looking at him.
Yeah, because he just zoned out going, chai, like to himself. Like he just hyping himself up. There's another moment with that where he does the exact same thing and what's her name? I can't remember what her name is now. I haven't played it today. What's her name? It's begins with
Erica Lindbeck's character.
Yeah, Erica Lindbeck's character. Peppermint, thank you. But yeah, Peppermint's just like, are you okay? You just like zoned out for a minute. And it's just like, I just love how in the context of the world, every time he goes into these tutorials, he's just completely zoning out of the universe. Like he's just dying. He's just like, bye. It's great. But it's like, there's games that can do this kind of style of humor.
Yeah. And I think what really helps that kind of style of humor work is definitely like the aesthetic of the game, like how it looks visually. Because like Hi-Fi Rush is like this kind of sort of, like you said, cartoony, cel-shaded
Saturday
GameCube
morning
Dreamcast
kind of cartoon,
kind of thing. Whereas Forspoken looks like every AAA video game.
Well, I just want to give a special shout out for Forspoken. For being a next-gen title, it still does manage to look terrible in its own special way. And what I mean by that is the character models for some reason, they don't look particularly great. They've got like this kind of PS3 quality to them where they kind of look like people, but all of their animations and them like their like speech mapping on their mouths just kind of look very much like Horizon Zero Dawn animation style, where it's just like open up and down, like that's about it. It's just like it has a very cheap feeling to a game that looks like it probably cost them a lot of money to make. And I mean, if you want our impressions, we did talk about the demo on the podcast, but I wasn't too impressed by it, to be honest. It's very run-of-the-mill generic. It is just an open world game with these powers where it's got what I can only describe as a very Square Enix control scheme where it doesn't work in the slightest. And you're like, why? Like, if you still get triggered at Kingdom Hearts having jump on circle, then you should play Forspoken, where it's like your stupid powers are on the triggers and it's none of it's working properly, and each trigger has a flipping weapon wheel, getting close, weapon wheel. That doesn't count. This is my challenge now. This is going to be the first non-explicit episode of the HGO podcast. And it's about how much I hate Forspoken. It's got stupid weapon wheels, and it's just like everything about it just doesn't work. The combat just doesn't work in that game. It's not fun. And I was like, you know what? Maybe it's just a bad demo. Maybe they chucked us in the wrong place. Maybe it's not a good area. And from the sounds of it, no. I've also heard the big selling point of this game was its elemental powers. I've heard that you don't get the elemental powers until you're 3/4 of the way through the video game. So
that's sick.
Yeah, you have to just deal with all your other powers instead. So the cool ones with the fire and the electricity and all that don't get till 3/4 of the way through. So
that's dumb. Why would you do that?
Because it's Square Enix.
That was the thing about looking at the trailer. Like, looking at the game, the thing that made me go, huh, that's, despite all of the writing and whatnot, I went, the elemental stuff and the way you're moving around look cool.
Yeah, and that was always my big takeaway from watching the trailers, was like, this game looked super fun to play.
Yeah, and it's just like, it doesn't feel fun to play. And I'm like, I'm so glad that Hi-Fi Rush came out this week, because it's like, Hi-Fi Rush is the kind of game where it feels good to play, and it's just like,
yeah, it does.
The levels are super long. Usually, we've talked about this before, when a single-player game has like these kind of mission structures. I've talked about it on Bayonetta, how I hate how long Bayonetta missions are, because I just get bored halfway through and I want it to be done. These levels are like 50 minutes long, and I'm not getting bored. And it's like, if a game has a good hook and the gameplay's great, then nothing else really matters, because you can just carry on enjoying it. And it's like, Forspoken is like the anti of that. It is where the story is awful, the gameplay isn't fun.
Yeah, it doesn't have the gameplay or any of the things that might, if the gameplay is mediocre to even bad, if you really like the characters or the performance or whatever, or the world inside of such, you might still stick it out just to, exist there, even if what you're doing is, on your own input, not very entertaining.
And I feel like I'm really sick of Square doing this. I feel like Square has two quality toggles. It's either the game is incredibly like well polished and really good in the likes of, most of the time, your Final Fantasies, your Kingdom Hearts, your those kind of big tentpole franchises where they know that for the most part, unless it's a spin-off, they have to actually, crank it up and make a decent product. And then you have these secondary games that can be low quality, like spin-offs, like Chocobo GP, like, all these other stupid little things. Or they can just be AAA disasters that nobody has asked for. No one wanted an Avengers game where you play terrible levels in games as a service, where you have to play dozens and dozens of hours just to level up a character, and they all play terribly anyway. No one asked for that. No one asked for a platinum game with games as a service features.
No one wanted the games as a service platinum games game.
No one asked for that. No one asked for a next generation PlayStation 5 console exclusive where the aim of the game is to make an open world generic game where the combat looks fun but isn't fun in the slightest and has characters that you want to run away from. That is not They're not the
Yeah.
games that people want, and I don't understand why Square Enix chucks money at them, and then they go, you know what? It's the Western Studios' fault. It's that darn Tomb Raider. Sell them off. Get them away from us. They can't touch our precious Forspoken.
It's hilarious that they did decide that like Crystal Dynamics was, well, I guess they were in charge of Avengers, but that's besides the point. That like this Tomb Raider studio was expendable, and like when they were making Tomb Raider, even though like Rise and Shadow I didn't play and seemed to just kind of come
Rise
and
is
go.
decent. Shadow I wasn't really a huge fan of, but it was just more of the same. It's same with Uncharted, right? It's just
Yeah,
more of
yeah.
the same.
They just kind of came and went, but you know, they
Serviceable.
were. I'm sure they were fine. People weren't, you know, like
If you're a
this is
Tomb Raider fan,
bad.
you probably wouldn't have been disappointed. I'll tell you
Yeah,
that.
and yeah, it's just Forspoken's also funny. Like it's people, yeah, like from the observations I've made, the world does seem to be aggressively boring, and it's like you got the whole girl taken from, you know, relatively modern era and
Isekai'd, yeah.
thrown
No
somewhere
truck
else.
coon, she just magically appears. Very
would-
disappointing.
It would I feel like in a video game, if you wanted to, you know, spruce up the setting to make it, I don't know, stand out a little bit, if you just kind of made the worlds clash together a little bit, like
That's what I've always that's what I always thought as well, was like you always hear like same with like people always talk about in the anime community how they're sick of isekais because every other anime these days is an isekai where, oh no, someone from a modern day is thrown away to a fantasy world where there's some random gimmick, and it's like, you know, they always do this thing, and it's like, why didn't they just clash the worlds? Why didn't they just have the worlds collide? That makes like much more interesting kind of world, at least, because when you do look at the Forspoken world, it is just grass and a couple of castles. It's very obviously medieval fantasy inspired, but it doesn't feel like it because it's just a load of hills and stuff, and the traversal isn't even that fun in the first place. If you're gonna make a, because I remember seeing those trailers back in 2020 during the PlayStation showcase and going, man, it looks really fun to play this video game, and it's not. It really isn't fun. It just has so many Square Enix-isms to the game where I'm like, why, to upgrade spells, do I have to go to a certain location, toggle 3 of the spells I want to work on, then go away, do those 3 requirements, then come back to upgrade them, and then toggle another 3? Why isn't it just in a flipping menu, very close, in a menu where everything's working, and once you do the requirement, just tick it off? Why do I have to select them? It's just like, there's so many Square Enix-isms to this game where I'm just like, so unnecessary, absolutely unnecessary, and I just don't understand what they're doing at this point. They're just trying to make so many bad games that like they tank their own value so that someone buys them. Is that their plan? Is that their strategy?
I don't know,
Well,
man.
it can't be, because then they've still got other games coming out this year, like Octopath 2 and Final Fantasy 16, which are gonna sell really well.
Do you think that Square Enix, maybe not necessarily the people who made Forspoken exactly, because no one
Luminous
sets out
Productions.
to make it. No one sets out
We
to
will
make a
say their
bad
name
game.
in vain.
Yeah, they also made Final Fantasy 15. Like, I'm not.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
But no one sets out to like make a bad game. But you know, do you think Square Enix as a collective get a chuckle out of just making these games that aren't good because
Well,
everyone's gonna
I've
buy their good
heard-
games anyway?
It's funny that you say that they worked on
Probably.
Final Fantasy 15, Hunter, because I've heard that the development of this game was, shocker, extremely rough, and they didn't know the kind of game they were making when they were making it. The original concept was a lot different to what
They
ended
just
up.
weren't allowed to take 10 years to do it.
It's just
Ah.
like, I just like, it is kind
They
of
didn't want
like,
another Versus 13.
yeah, it's just, I just don't, honestly, I just don't get what Square Enix's game plan is here. It's just like, there's a part of me, and I hate this, because I hate talking about acquisitions, and I hate the acquisition kind of era that we're in, where everyone's just like, buy, buy, buy. There's genuinely a small part of me that's like, is Sony already working on this, and they're just waiting for the Activision thing to fall through? Like, are they just trying to tank?
Yeah,
because
'cause,
they're
like,
like,
no
are
one
we just
can
trying to
do
tank
anything
Activision
right now,
Xbox
can
so
they?
that yeah. Like, I genuinely think that thank God in a way for the Xbox Activision acquisition, because I feel like it stopped a load of other acquisitions from happening, because everyone's like on pause because they're like Sony's like, we don't want it to happen, and Xbox is like, we do. So they're like holding the lines right now, and I'm just like, like you just got
Real
like
funny.
Square Enix, just like
This will never happen. But can you imagine a world where Nintendo just rolls up to Square Enix and is like, "Hey, here you go.
That would be.
Come with us."
I
That would be
would, and I think
dope.
it'd be hilarious, but I also think it'd be the biggest tragedy of all time because I'm still sitting here like it's like. What do you give Nomura with a potato? Like, you can't make games run on regular consoles. Now you try and you make your Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy on the Nintendo Switch, buddy boy. 480p, please. Like, it's just like not gonna happen. But it's like I just don't get what Square wants really. I don't get what their plan is because they ride a lot on nostalgia with Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy, especially with these remakes, with 7 Remake.
Well,
They've still got at least another 2 of them to come out. They've got the 9 Remake, which is definitely in development because the Nvidia leak has been 100% accurate. And it's like, they just ride on this nostalgia, and then when something new does come out, look at it. It's like, what is this? It doesn't know what it wants to be. And it's just very weird to me.
Well, what they want is for us to want to buy NFTs, but we don't. So
is that their plan?
They
we're gonna keep making terrible games until you buy an NFT. Like, this is it. It's like,
yeah, they're holding their own
ground.
quality hostage.
Yeah, we'll make good games again
Square,
if you buy
you
our
can take
JPEG.
yourself as much as you want. I will play the rest of the Tales series out of spite before I buy one of your NFTs.
It's absolutely crazy to me. So, no. I've heard some people have been liking it Forspoken. It might be a diamond in the rough. This might be genuinely another one of those classics of maybe wait 6 to 8 months when it's gone down 75% in price, and maybe they will have done some things to it to make it better. Who knows? But no, Square, they probably just make the 2 DLCs and abandon it like they do with everything else.
Yeah.
Sorry, Hunter.
I am grateful that Hi-Fi Rush came out because that's added just another step in. Because like Dead Space came out, I'll probably be done with that by the end of the weekend. Hi-Fi Rush, and then I didn't finish Star Wars yet. So these are all things that line up to be.
I meant Dead Space, and I forgot you said Hi-Fi Rush in the middle, but
yeah,
Dead Space.
These are all things that line up to be like just enough to fill up the time until like Octopath 2 comes out. Because like if I didn't find a game, if I didn't have anything else, I would have been like, yeah, I get Forspoken because nothing else to do, I guess.
No, don't do that. That's like Ethan thinking. And I'm actually, in the same way that Cal's like, I'm expanding. I'm like going to try new things and shit. I'm actually quite proud of myself for genuinely saying no to a video game. I'm kind of proud.
Same.
Because I'm like, wow, just saying no is a huge step, especially because I pre-ordered it and it arrived and I was like, no, and sent it back. I'm like, that's a proud step for me because like a year ago, I would have been like, well, I'd have to send it back. Like, so I'd just play it anyway, like Nintendo Switch Sports. And it's just like, I'm actually quite proud of it. And, because like looking at this year, there's a lot of stuff that you guys are picking up. But to me, literally in the first 6 months, there's the potential of PSVR 2 and Zelda, and that's it. That's like it for me. Maybe I'll now pick up Jedi Survivor because I didn't pick up Forspoken. That's like my well done, here's your reward. You can play the game you actually wanted to play. Maybe that's like that's
Star
about
Wars.
it.
That's a treat.
Yeah. as a quote unquote treat, as someone that only likes the Mandalorian, like that's it. Okay, thank you.
You liked
Pedro
the first
Pascal
game, didn't you?
Pardon? I beat the first game.
I was just gonna say you liked the first game. It's like arguably, besides the Mandalorian, one of the better things to come out of the past several years of Star Wars.
Oh no, I'd say they're the 2 best things that have come out of modern Star Wars. Maybe also Andor, because I've heard people really like Andor. I feel like those are the 3 things. Mandalorian is great, but it's also I just like Pedro Pascal a lot. I'm just like, he's one of, how people were like screaming when they saw Keanu Reeves, or they were like when they saw Idris Elba's in the Cyberpunk expansion. The game that has Pedro Pascal in it is the game where I'm like, that's when I'll fanboy moment. I'll be like, I'll buy whatever the hell you want. Like, okay.
He's gonna be in that. It'd be funny if he was in that silly crime game that has a bunch of other celebrities.
That thing. Nah. One thing I do hope, and Neil, if you do this, I think it'd be really hilarious. In the same way that Ashley and Troy got to play other characters in the TV show to The Last of Us, I would honestly think it'd be amazing if you got Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal to just cameo in The Last of Us Part 3. I think it would be incredible. I think it'd be really good.
That would be funny.
Don't even have to be big roles, like, you know, how Troy's playing one of Bill's, sorry, what is it, Frank? It's one of Frank's men.
Yeah, but don't put that bad juju on Bill.
Yeah, Bill's a good man.
Bill didn't do
His
anything
episode's
wrong.
out this week, and I've heard it's the best. Like, I've heard it's the best episode of the season, so I'm very excited for it. But man, that'd be fun. But anyway, do not buy Forspoken, or if you do buy Forspoken, I hope you have a grand time with it and you can see past its faults, because there's plenty of them. And Square, please, let's hope that that's the one whiff, right? Octopath's good, Final Fantasy's good, right? Right, Square, come on, both of them.
I don't know how you would mess up Octopath.
I don't
after
see a
doing
world.
the first one, right? Come on.
Yeah, I don't see a world how Octopath 2 was bad.
Octopath,
Someone
yeah,
please
it's mainly
clip that and hold on to it for when that game releases and it's bad.
I don't know why, and it's like, you know, everything about Final Fantasy 16 has looked great so far, but this has put me a bit more hesitant on the Final Fantasy 16 train, because I'm just like, Square may release that a bit too early. It makes me a bit concerned, so we'll see.
Nah.
16 is fine.
Nah, 16's
We'll
gonna be
see.
fine.
We'll
Yoshi
see.
P is.
We've got Yoshi P and like the DMC combat guys.
Yeah.
I think we're fine.
We'll see. I'm hopeful as ever. I am hopeful, but also I can't trust Square Enix to not bring out something 3 months too early. I can't trust
I mean,
them.
yeah, I don't like Square Enix either. And by that, I mean, I don't like their practices. I like the things they make, and I'm annoyed that they make them.
See, I don't even like some game. Like I love Final Fantasy VII Remake. I love how stupid the Kingdom Hearts story is. I love that it's like the worst thing ever made, yet it still made me tear up in the end. And I'm like, why am I tearing up? This is terrible. Like, you know what I mean? Right? It's like they hooked me in with the terribleness, and I'm like, so they've got a lifelong Kingdom Hearts fan in me just because I want to just keep seeing the terrible. But it's like, Final Fantasy is still a hit and miss, yeah, with me.
The video game equivalent of the Fast and Furious.
It genuinely is. It's all about family. It's all about family, guys. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see. Let's wrap it up then, Hunter. You had a nice little surprise this week. Do you want to tell us all about it?
Oh yeah, I got the fancy new controller.
You got the $200 controller.
As a Christmas present.
And that's a good Christmas present, and that's
Yeah.
unfortunate for you because your brother has now set expectations. That's it. You're done now.
Well, nah,
You're in a war.
nah, it's alright.
No,
I
you're
would
in a
have
war.
I would have definitely. He bought himself a. Never mind.
What did he?
But
No.
anyway.
Tell the story.
No.
What did he buy? What did he buy?
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Anyway, this controller's fun though. It's extra buttons. I've been playing around with games as far as seeing what I can come up with. I've not played very many games where I'm like, I sure do need more buttons.
You're not.
It's not
a
actually a
multiplayer
problem.
gamer.
Yeah,
Really?
no, it's not a problem for me. So I was like, okay, what can I try out here? Devil May Cry, that has a lot of inputs. So I went into DMC5, put put the little style switchers on for the two that I use the most, which would have been like Trickster and Swordmaster on here, see if that flowed any better. I'm like, that's all right. Then I decided that I was gonna map this one to Circle because that's actually kind of helpful when using Dante's Swordmaster stuff, because a lot of it because the one weapon very much if you push Circle while you're also doing your combos and stuff will just kind of passively hit things as well. So it's kind of annoying to hit triangle and circle at the same time while consistently trying to time it to a combo and whatnot. It's very much easier to do that. So that's what I landed on for the little bit that I was experimenting with DMC. And then I tried out Roller Drome. It's a little bit easier to dodge. Putting the dodge button on this is a little bit easier because then I can keep, square and triangle and whatnot free for the tricks that I need to do. So that's nice. It's got, replaceable. You can replace the you can replace the sticks, but that's separate, so I didn't do that. You can also take off the thumb pads and put the other ones that they got on there. I forget how they describe them, but one looks like the PS3 analog
They're,
stick
yeah, they're the sticks.
cap.
They're like, yeah, the little
Yeah,
thumbsticks.
I haven't messed with them yet, but I almost want to put that on there now, just because I want someone to look at this and be like, "Oh, it's a nice looking controller," and then see the analog sticks and
On a
have their heart
PS3 and
sink.
cry.
Yeah. Aside from that, they've also got like these adjustable triggers where you can adjust how deep the button press goes. Like if you take it to the one that's all the way down there, you only have to tap it a little bit, as opposed to when it's not on at all. You get a much further press in there. So, oh god, sorry.
Your noise cancellation actually didn't bring that through, so that was pretty good. Not gonna lie.
Oh, nice. But yeah, aside from that, there's like 4 profiles you can set, so you don't have to fiddle with it for like every game in existence. As far as that's concerned, you can just come up with a couple that you might need the extra things or how you want it for, and maybe get it to work that way. Yeah. It's funny because I've not been in a situation where I'm like, I sure do need more buttons, but if I could have like made those buttons do 2 buttons at once or something, that would have been super helpful. Like, in fighting games, for example, like in Soul Calibur, they've got like inputs that you can do where it's like, press triangle and circle at the same time and you'll do some kind of thing. And you can also like set your R1 or L1 buttons to also do like that sequence at the same time. And it's like, oh, that's much easier that way. If I could have done something like that, I might be getting a little bit more mileage out of the extra back pads. But as it stands, I don't play games with people because I hate everyone. So this isn't exactly I'm still gonna play it. I'm still gonna play with it. It's still a nice controller. I feel like I'll get more mileage out of it than a lot of people would buy it and be like, "Oh, it's so nice. I don't want to use it or whatever." That's a stupid mentality. You spent the money on it. Use the thing.
Yeah, I like. Here's the thing: is to me it's the price. That's the thing that
Yeah,
takes me
yeah.
off
Like
it. I would have.
I would not have
100%. If it
bought
was a
this, which is why this is a nice. It's a nice gift because
if it was a
either
reasonable price, and by reasonable I mean the usual DualSense is like £60, I think, or 70. If it was like double, if it was like the price of 2 controllers, I'd be like, you know what? Because of the replaceable sticks, I won't have to buy another one. I'll just have to buy another stick or whatever. This is like that's a reasonable thing there. The fact that it's like £210, it's more expensive in the UK than it is in the US. In the US, it's $200. In the UK, it's £210. So it's like, no. I hope maybe one day there's a Black Friday deal on them that'll lower it quite a bit, and then maybe I'll pick one up. But it's like, it's a lot to ask for, especially when it's like, I would use them in very rare situations. $260, that's the equivalent to. I was just doing a quick conversion. So, yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah, but like I'm gonna use it, if I can come up with more things to, make use of the extra buttons for, I'll set it on there. But it's a matter of when things pop up and what their control scheme is. Because I imagine that like it wouldn't shock me if Final Fantasy 16 even has some kind of stupid Square Enix control mapping where I'm like, all right, I want to be able to press these 2 things, but they're also the entire thing apart. So I'm going to put this over here instead. Because that sounds like a Square Enix kind of problem. We were just talking about that.
They would do that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the kind of thing that I might end up using it for, just to like cut out the middleman and make the thing a bit more ergonomic as far as the button inputs. But yeah, as it stands,
I guess the only
controller.
con I've heard so far is the battery. That's the only con. Is the battery is smaller. No, I'm just letting people aware. It's smaller, and not just in the fact that it's less battery because it's got more features. They literally have a smaller battery in it, which I think is really funny.
It's funny,
it's
but
literally smaller. It's about 4 hours you get. So some people are like, how can I have a proper gaming session with 4 hours? And to these days, I'm like, if I've had 4 hours, that's a good gaming session, guys. Good job. We played a game for 4 hours. Well done.
I feel like it didn't die any quicker than the DualSense, the regular one did, but
it's slightly, but well, I mean, the original
but,
DualSense is like 5 hours, 6 hours, if that.
Yeah.
It's not much because you know what the haptic voodoo and all that jazz. Like,
yeah. Oh, there's another thing with the function buttons. I just remembered. Those give you like little shortcuts as far as going into the menu of the PlayStation. A little handy one that is nice is that you can adjust the volume of like your earphones without just push this thing and then like up or down. That's nice.
Yeah.
Instead of going into the like sounds and then adjusting the bar to that whole ordeal, it makes it just a couple presses away. So it's like there's a bunch of random quality of life things, but not a pro gamer, and so it's a controller with a little extra bells and whistles.
And it's an option, right? If you're a pro gamer, if you really love to game, then there you go.
Before you do spend the $200, be realistic with yourself, though. Are you actually a pro gamer? Will these buttons actually help you? The answer is probably not.
And I mean, looking at the other options, right? I was just quickly having a look. Scuff, for example, in the UK is $199.99, so it's around the same price so it's like it's for an official product from Sony that seems to be really high quality. It's the same price as what you would buy from these other people. So if you are in that market, then if you're thinking that you want to go official, then go official because there's not much of a price difference.
Their charging cable is like a nicer quality and also longer than the.
Well, yeah, because you need to plug it in because of that battery life. You also have the little lock. There's like a little lock thing that you can attach to it. I don't know if you saw it.
Oh yeah, I saw that and I didn't really know. I didn't feel like figuring out where to put it.
You just put it on the. It's the end that goes into the controller hunter, and you lock it in, and it stops the USB-C from coming out.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. For all those aggressive gamers. I'm like, to me, it's
I need
like
that for my phone more than I need
that
that for a controller. Like
I was also
I've got
like,
to the stage and with my phone and my charging cable for it,
I was
it
also
falls out when I'm like, it'll just be sitting there.
I was also like, fair play. That's a good feature, right? But also, it's not like USB-C is like micro USB. Micro USB, the cable gets all jaunty and stuff like that. USB-C is quite a secure cable. And if you're pulling that hard, it's just going to pull your fucking console instead of detaching your cable. So it's like, you pick your poison. What do you want? Do you want it coming out of your controller or pulling your PlayStation with you? Like, it seems a bit like no.
Well, they had to do something. They can't pay for these excitable gamers to go to therapy.
I don't know, but it's like we've got to think in Sony money now because Sony money's crazy. It's like half of a DualSense Edge is like half a PS5. Okay, it's over half of a PS5 digital edition, but it's like and then it's like a fifth of a VR, and a VR's worth 1.2 PS5s, and it's like, what is this economy that Sony's doing? It's like it just doesn't
over
make
two
sense.
Forspokens.
Yeah. You could bet it's 6, 12, 18. Yeah, it's 3.5 Forspokens for a DualShock Edge. Like, what? DualSense Edge. Wow. In this economy? That's crazy. I wonder, yeah. But hey, it's there. If you want it, you can go in buy it.
It is a nice looking controller, to be fair. I like it, like aside from maybe the shiny.
The piano
middle
black
part
kills
here.
me. It genuinely does.
I like it more than the standard white one.
I said it to you yesterday. They should have inverted it and had.
Oh yeah, I would have been absolutely down for the Oreo controller.
Yeah. It just like like pro gamers, dude. Like get those stereotypes in, dude. Cheetos and Mountain Dew. They're gonna come up on that white like it's no tomorrow. Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying, guys. But hey, anyway, I believe that's it. That's all we have time for this week on this family-friendly edition of the HGO podcast. If you ever wanted to show your grandma your favorite podcast, the HGO podcast, this is the one.
Yeah,
I did it,
show your
guys.
grandma the episode where we're talking about Dead Space.
Yeah.
They love it. They love it. I'm genuinely quite surprised. I'm proud of myself for doing it. It's possible, apparently. I just had to switch radio brain on instead of podcast brain, and it was just that simple. I said flip, I said heck, but I didn't say anything else, and that's good enough for me. And if Susan demonetizes this one, then I don't know what to do anymore. I guess it's just
We're
the
gonna stage a
British that's
protest.
demonetized. Like, yeah, it's just you two now. They hear a British voice and then it's like, that's demonetized. Get them gone. But no, next week on the show, I don't know. Is it filler week next week? We got something. We got.
I think
I don't think
Games
anything. Yeah, games aren't coming out. We'll have to come up with something.
Oh well, we'll come up with
Time
something.
for another 3x3.
No,
Potentially.
that would be a challenge. It's
Yes.
like, well done, Ethan. A week of no game releases and a sub 1 hour 30 podcast. You didn't swear. Can you get through like a 2 hour 3x3 episode without swearing? I don't know if I can, to be honest. It'd be a challenge.
Hunter and I will test you to see how far you can go.
The real question is, did you? I didn't notice you swear. Did you swear,
I
Kyle?
don't think I did.
Were you a good boy?
I think. I don't know.
If anyone's made it this far, let us know how many times, if anybody did. And no, hex and flips don't count. This isn't the Disney Channel. Anyway, our links are on screen right now, or you can go to the description if you want to find us on social media. Keep up to date with everything that we do outside of the podcast. It's going to be, like I say, it's going to be quite a few weeks until Octopath. And maybe Ethan entering the next dimension. We'll see. We'll see how I feel.
VR Hunter.
No. I know what he meant.
Oh.
My light was doing something goofy here.
Sorry, you
I
looked
was-
confused.
Well, I was confused about my light, not Ethan.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know what to do. Anyway, if you, like Hunter, are looking around not knowing what to do, you can go follow us on Twitter at HotGamersOnly, or subscribe to us at youtube.com/HotGamersOnly. And hey, if you don't want to look at our stupid faces, that's cool. Head to your favorite podcast service, search for Hot Gamers Only, or find us on your favorite one like Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon, you name it, we're on it. Go find us. It's cool. Leave us a review. Positive one, please. Like, comment, subscribe, all of those. Apparently likes don't mean anything anymore, so dislike if you want. I don't care. I'm not your
We
mom.
don't see them.
We don't see them. I don't see anything. I'll leave
And
that to
your
Hunter.
opinion would be wrong anyway, so why would we care?
Exactly. Oh dear. We've been doing this for far too long. Anyway, on that note, that's it for this week. We'll be back same time, same place next week for more. But yeah, until then, have an awesome week. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye.
See ya.
Toodaloo.